right, welcome to another episode of After the Catch presented by PGM. As you know, it's your boy Playoff coming through. We're actually switching things up a little bit. As you can see, we got two new faces here. We have Miss Victoria and Mr. EA, two of the Bengals faithful that I came into contact with just in through the general Bengals Twitter community. Thank you all. Thank you both for hopping on.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, no,
thanks for having us, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So obviously, it's the Bengals bye week. I feel like it's kind of a good time to kind of talk through some of the some of how the season's gone. I think that's a longer conversation, obviously, with everything that's kind of gone wrong. But definitely wanted to chat about the Chargers game because it's starting to feel more and more like this season in particular is kind of lost at this point. But before we get into that and the Chargers game specifically, I wanted to give you both an opportunity to kind of talk through your journey to becoming a Bengals fan.
Tori, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll keep it
okay.
short.
That's fine.
I am from New Orleans.
Okay.
My whole entire family on my mother's side went to LSU.
Okay.
Joe Burrow is a life-changing human being. That's the short of it. Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase is a life-changing phenomenon. Watching that 2019 LSU season unfold was one of the most insane things I've ever witnessed as a football fan. I loved Joe Burrow immediately. I've been a quarterback girl for a very long time. I loved Drew Brees. He immediately reminded me of Drew. And the fact that he was wearing number 9 like Drew, I was like, oh boy, okay. This is my next quarterback. This is my guy. Like, I find a quarterback, I stick with him. And then the chemistry he had with Jamar was crazy. So I remember he got drafted to the Bengals. My dad goes, "Oh, Cincinnati, that's a quarterback killer." And I was like, "Fuck up. This is my team." I was like, done. I was like, I don't care. Where Joe goes, I go. And then they got Uno. And I was like, well, holy shit. Now the Bengals are really, really my team. And I don't know. I really those first few years, I was like, and I also really liked how this organization is being run at the moment. And I liked the coaching staff initially. I appreciated what they were trying to do. And I come from being a Saints fan, which is a terrible organization doing terrible things. And I think if you are putting a bad product on the field, it is well within a fan's rights to say, you know what, I am done with this organization because this is not a product I respect. So I thought the Bengals were doing things differently than that. And so here I am. And I'm hoping that the younger people in the organization can perhaps take more charge in the coming years to prevent a Saints situation.
Yeah, real quick before you get into your journey. I just want to say I was very much in tune with that LSU season because I'm in South Carolina and I went to the University of South Carolina, and that was actually one of the years where Trevor Lawrence was at Clemson, and they were kind of trending in the direction of they played them in the championship. Well, did they play them in the championship game?
Yeah.
Yeah, they played them in the championship game, and so that's where they both got on my radar, Burrow and Jamar Chase, just because I cannot stand Clemson. I don't know if you've ever met anyone.
Oh yeah, you guys, it's a huge rivalry.
Yep. Yeah, I went to school with 2 kids from USC. Went to PT school with 2 kids who had gone to
I got you. Okay. But yeah, Clemson fans are some of the worst fans on the planet. And like just the idea of them winning another championship and just having to hear about it is just it's something that I couldn't live with. So I'm glad that Joe, Jamar, Justin Jefferson, that whole team took care of business. But yeah, go ahead, EA.
So my dad is from a place in southern Ohio, about 2 hours outside of Cincinnati, most southern tip of all of Ohio.
Okay.
And basically, they grew up, and half the family grew up Pittsburgh fans. And then when he was a kid in like 1981, the Bengals made the Super Bowl, and he was like, actually, that's my team. I'm not a Pittsburgh fan. So he became a Bengals fan, and from there on out, he just stuck with the Bengals, and that's the reason I'm a fan now. I remember being 8 years old. I'm 27 now.
Okay.
I remember being 8 years old, watching them play the '05 season when they made the playoffs, and they broke the. I didn't really realize how bad things were and how dire they were before that, because like I remember watching games when I was like 6 or 7, but like the '05 season resonates with me a lot because they made the playoffs, and then my dad and my brother are like losing their minds, being like, "This team, we can't believe it," because my brother's about 5 years older than me, and I was like, "What's the? They're good. What do you mean? Yeah, we root for a good team." My dad's like, "You don't know yet. You
You
don't
don't
know
know
the,
the history.
you don't know the pain. You don't know the pain of what we've been through." And I'm like, "This is awesome. My team's great." And then, a lot of ups and downs over the years, but it is what it is, man. I'm always probably going to be a Bengals fan. So you
Yeah,
just
I mean,
figure it out.
I will say, like, I started supporting the team when Marvin Lewis was the coach,
Yeah.
and like you said, they kind of hit their stride as far as being a relevant team. Carson Palmer, Andy Dalton, Ocho Cinco, just Vontez Burfict, just some really notable names. It's just that team when they were coached by Marvin Lewis, they could never get over the hump. Like
It was
they were
always a quarterback.
yeah,
Always a quarterback problem. Yeah.
and like you know I'm into fantasy football. I'm sure I've had Andy Dalton some years, and it's like
Yeah.
just the highs and lows, because Andy Dalton was a quarterback that could go out there and he could throw 4 or 5 touchdowns and just have a spectacular game. But on the other side of it, he could go out there and just throw 3 interceptions, and you just absolutely have no chance in the game.
Yeah.
And so like you said, ups and downs. Initially, what made me gravitate to the Bengals community on Twitter is just like there's a tendency in especially on Twitter and in spaces, you have people who like like crash outs, and it's like it can kind of it can go in like a really nasty direction sometimes. And I feel like the Bengals community, for the most part, they just talk football, like X's and O's, and
Yeah.
you just have really good conversations in there. And that's initially how I became aware of you two. But the big reason why we're here is obviously to discuss the most the recent the primetime game on Sunday night and the loss to the Chargers. The Bengals, obviously lost the game 34-27. Just to go through some stats really quickly, another great effort from Joe Burrow and Jamar. I'm trying to pull up these stats really quickly. Hold on, sorry.
I know Burrow had I think it was 330 yards or so, 340 yards.
Yeah, and that's one of the really disappointing things, because my biggest concern coming into the season was like, is Joe still going to be Joe? Having the wrist injury, that's something that we've never seen a quarterback have before.
Yeah.
And it's like he's answered the call. Like, he's still Joe. It's the best football we've ever seen.
He's the best. Yeah, this is the best Joe, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the best Joe.
But just to get into these stats, like Joe Burrow, 28 for 50, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He did get sacked 3 times. Chase Brown, 22 carries for 86 yards. T had an outstanding game, 9 catches, 148 yards, 1 touchdown. And Jamar had 7 catches for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, that pretty much covers it from the Bengals perspective. Obviously they lost. It was, really disappointing because we really needed that game to keep the playoff hopes alive. There's still a slim chance they can get in, but they need a lot of help. And to be honest with you, I'm the school of thought where I'm at right now is I feel like there's fundamental change that needs to happen. And I feel like the only way you get there is if they don't make the playoffs, unfortunately. Like, you almost have to force the optics of Joe and Jamar playing at the level that they are and not making the playoffs is just, and it's such a terrible look. for an organization that, was on the short list of, potential Super Bowl, winners coming into the season, and it's turned out this way. But getting back into the game, what were your thoughts watching the game? What were your takeaways? Really, and either one of you, feel free to go.
Tori, do you want to take this first?
Well, to be quite honest, I only watched with my eyes the first half. And then I was like, I'm depressed. I'm going to watch Gilmore Girls and not this. And then EA and I were actually on the phone during halftime, and we were talking, and then the game started again, and he just happened to start giving me the play-by-play over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bengals started doing really well. The Bengals, well, even the defense picked it up a little.
Yeah.
And
the
I
defense
was
picked
like,
it up,
well, I can't. I'm very superstitious about sports. So I was like, I can't turn the game back on. They started doing well with me on my phone and play by. So it's kind of weird game for me because I saw a lot of the plays after the fact while scrolling through Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. To me, it was just evident that when things go right, it's Joe and Jamar and Joe and T and Joe and whoever creating something out of nothing, which the nothing comes from having not a good offensive line. I think you need to do something at the interior. That's evident. I think that's evident from the run game too. The fact that you can't go under center with 4th and inches. I don't care that you figured out how to get 4th and inches. The fact that you can't just go under center and bully it over the line of scrimmage to get a first down in short yardage is pathetic to me. That's pathetic. And I get that you don't want to do it with Joe, maybe. Okay, you remember that time we did that little direct snap? Who was that to in that
Tanner
game?
Hudson.
Tanner Hudson.
Ravens on Thursday
night. Then why don't you do that more? Figure it the fuck out. Sorry. So watching those plays that are these incredible, Joe to Jamar, Joe to T. Whoa, look how crazy! It's still just it's crazy and incredible because he has to rely on being his Superman self to make things happen because he's not getting protected, whereas Herbert looks like he's playing in a 7-on-7 scrimmage and they're not allowed to hit him. And that's what really, I guess, stood out to me offensively. Defensively, it's the same thing that stood out to me all year. Play your fucking young talent. I'm so sorry for cursing.
No, you're good.
Play your talent. You have this young talent. And I guess that's a Lou thing. I don't know. I was thinking about it. Is it a Lou thing? Is it a Duke Tobin thing where he's telling them well, these are the guys we signed for in free agency, so you have to play them? I don't know. I don't know. Either way, I don't why is Josh Newton only now getting more snaps like this?
Yeah.
I think people who say okay, don't get too excited about him. He still has X, Y, and Z issues. Great. How is he going to overcome those issues if he's not getting actual snaps?
Absolutely.
So those are, this game is just an extension of all the rest of them in that way.
Well,
that's for me.
Well, the Josh Newton thing is very frustrating because that's the best cornerback play I've probably seen all year outside of the Chiefs week 2. Dax played a great game against Rashee Rice and against Xavier Worthy. And then outside of that game, the Josh Newton half of football, it was evident early on that he was able to communicate better than anybody else in the field on the back end. He was screaming at guys, yelling and pointing. Hey, man in rotation when they're running orbit. When they run that orbit motion and you see Ladd McConkey, you see whoever else they would go on backside, he's screaming at the linebackers. You need to communicate. You need to get over. We've got to shift. And when you see stuff like that early on, it's okay. So you've had communication issues since week two of the Chiefs game because CTB gave up the big touchdown to Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
And Von Bell has his feet in concrete. And then week 3, you don't get a stop. Week 4, you win against a bad Panthers team, but you give up 24 points. And Deontay Johnson had 120 yards. And then week 5, you don't get a stop again against the Ravens. Okay, Dax Hill tears his ACL in week 5. That right there tells you I'm putting Josh Newton on the field for at least 20 snaps in a game the next game. At least. That's just how it works. Fundamentally, that's how all of it should work, because now you're in an evaluation process. We haven't got stops in 2 out of 6 football. Like, not one stop. Not one stop. We did not get one stop in 2 out of our 6 football games, and our best corner just tore his ACL. I need to throw caution to the wind, put the players out there, and whoever performs, let the cream rise to the top. And we didn't do that until we're basically out of the playoff picture. So it's that coupled with the Chargers game, to me, is just it's very symbolic of the entire, it represents everything this season is.
Yep.
The interior offensive line gets dusted by guys that were free agents that we didn't sign, Puna Ford and Tier Tart, who doesn't fit our culture. All of the players that we didn't want to sign on the defensive interior dust our horrible interior offensive line. Joe Burrow gets hit 15 times, but he avoids pressure 12 of them. He's creating something out of nothing, like she said. 4th and inches, you score on 4th and inches twice off of a 4th and inches thrown on to Jamar in a quick slant, and then a 4th and 1, 4th and 2 deep. It was a sluggo route by T. Higgins whenever he scored a 50-yard touchdown. And that just encapsulates who the team is this year. You can't run it on short downs. Joe has to create something out of nothing. And the play where Justin Herbert ran play action, and he rolls out to the right, and then he starts rolling right, and he breaks back to the middle because the interior defensive linemen are 10 yards upfield getting bullied by Zion Johnson. And he gets to step into the pocket when the QB spy's almost about to hit him because he has so much room to work with. And he throws a laser to Quentin Johnston because CTB decided to carry with the receiver on a cover 3.
He's done that so many times.
He's done it so, but again, to CTB's, not to his credit, but I don't want to fault him for this. That's a communication thing, right there. How does somebody, when you know you're in that coverage consistently, how does Geno Stone not look over and be like, hey, we're in this. Remember this. Yeah, remember, we're in cover 3. You don't carry here. It's stuff like that consistently where it's like Josh Newton's in the game. I didn't see it one time. I didn't see any of that by any of the players. And CTB was in there after DJ Turner went down, and it didn't happen again.
Your smartest people
on the field. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest with you, I was a person early on whenever Geno Stone got signed. I liked the signing initially because I said, the thing is with Geno, I said he can't tackle, he can't play in the box, but I know who he is. And I was like, he's just a deep half corner, and he did that efficiently last year for that Ravens team. It is now very apparent that he was just a purely reaping the rewards of an all-time great, like one of the 3 best defenses in the last decade in the NFL, or since the turn of the millennium. He was on one of the 3 best defenses, and he's just not an NFL safety. Like we're talking about like a 4th. This should be your 4th safety. 4th. He should be break glass case of emergency, because like this guy, when you're playing cover 3, and I said this yesterday to I believe it was Roland. We were in a space briefly for like a couple minutes. When a team runs 4 verts against a cover 3, it's a good play call. First of all, they called the correct play. If you get time, it's hard to stop it. It's very hard to stop, especially if the quarterback is looking at the seam routes and he has an absolute bazooka for an arm like Herbert does. Yeah. It's going to be essentially impossible to stop. But the problem was, I don't care that you got beat on cover 3. I do not. When he throws it to the seam route and the guy beats through the spot and he gets in the end zone, great play. As long as it's a receiver or a really good tight end. When it's Will Dissly, I have real concerns about your game speed, your play recognition. Because the other thing was, too, Will Dissly didn't just score on the play. He didn't get hit.
Yeah.
You got to think, like, he was so open. He could throw a seam route in between the teeth of a cover 3 he's able to then catch it and run into the end zone at like 5 miles an hour because he's Will Dissly. It's like, if it's Noah Fant, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller a couple years ago, even Andrews are likely, I'm like, you know what, man? Good athlete, made a good play, good quarterback. But the Will Dissly thing has not left my brain, and it will not leave my brain, because that tells me you're either your game speed or your reaction time are both probably off, and you're a poor athlete as it is already. So we do not need you on the field, because that's about the umpteenth time this year of just teams attacking the seam routes and just, hey, this guy can't move.
Yeah, they're being wide open.
When you play cover 2, they don't even have to throw Geno Stone, because they know Von Bell is as old as, I don't know, he's as fast as any man in a retirement home at this point. So they just decide to throw Von Bell on the deep ball.
Yeah, I think it's been said multiple times, but it's the worst safety duo in the league by far.
Back-to-back years now. This is back-to-back years we've had the worst safety. Last year was somehow worse. I know that's hard to believe.
No, it was.
Last year was somehow it was. I'll say this: it was worse when it was Nick Scott.
Yes.
And Daxville. And then when we replaced Nick Scott in like week, I think it was the Ravens game on Thursday when Joe got hurt. They replaced him full time with Jordan Battle. And when that happened, it like raises like below average safety play. Which again, this goes back to Tori's point about playing young players, because
they can't learn if they don't get any burn. So
I don't know.
Crazy. That's what drives me crazy about people on Twitter who are like, well, this guy isn't as good as, like, he's had this many snaps and hasn't done anything. It's like, you got to give him more time. He has to do more. You have to make the mistake to learn from the mistake. I'm so sorry. That's just literally half of my job too, is making people do things that they're bad at so that they can get better at it. If that isn't how it worked, people would just be screwed. You broke your elbow, your arm's gonna be stuck like this forever. Like, no, you have to go through it to get there. And so I don't understand people who, and I think this goes for the coaches too, people need to stop expecting athletes to play perfectly immediately just because of their RAS score.
I mean, just, you look back at the Chiefs, and their transition to becoming the defense that they are now. They had a really good draft, and they played those young players from the jump.
Yep.
And allowed them to learn on the job. And it's like, seeing Dejon Anthony be inactive week after week, and then I see Geno Stone putting the film out there that he's putting out there, Von Bell doing whatever he's doing. Like, he doesn't even flash. He doesn't make plays.
He's
a super slow. Like, I have flashbacks to, the Derrick Henry run in one of the Ravens games where
the pitch play where he didn't move. He didn't move while literally every other human on the defense, on the whole defense, have you seen that picture, Tori? Have you seen that?
Yeah, he's like,
he's standing flat-footed while everyone else is at least like a stride or two into their break, being like, "Oh, Derrick Henry has the football," and Von Bell's like, "I'm actually just cool right here." Like,
you're young, you got it.
You got it. Go ahead. Yeah.
On McDonald's.
Yeah,
it's super disappointing because it can't be worse than what we're seeing.
Yeah, I will say, I don't know who Tyson Anderson killed in Lou's family or what he did to his manhood. But
how can you be the best player on special teams and not get any defensive snaps?
Yeah, like you've been given a responsibility to do something at a high level. You do it better than anyone on the team. And then now it's like, that's great. By the way, the position that you technically play, we're the worst in the league at, but you cannot do it. It's like, how
loud.
So what does he have to do to earn actual, like, and plus two in the preseason every year, Tyson Anderson's looked pretty good. So and the elite athleticism, the willingness to do the dirty work on special teams. By the way, he clearly has to be an okay tackler, because he's the first person to make the tackle every single time on special teams when you're running at breakneck speed. So
I don't know why you wouldn't want that. in your
At
secondary.
least see what it looks like.
Well, here's an idea. Hey, we're going to run cover 3. You've got the middle because you're a better athlete than Geno Stone. If he gives up a touchdown, it's the same thing Geno Stone
Same
did.
result. Absolutely.
And we're like, okay, well, we're just going to play Geno Stone because he's more accustomed to this. But after that, you can bench him. But I do not understand the unwillingness, the absolute stubbornness to be like, we're just not doing it. And that goes back to, the Miles Murphy conversation, all the conversation with like all the young players. The Miles Murphy one is easily the most baffling. Like when
before you get into that, because I know we're short on time.
Sorry.
No.
I got
You're
about 5 more minutes here, if that's all right.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
You're good.
Fine. Just really quickly, just wanted to get, obviously there's fingers to point in many different directions.
Yeah.
But just wanted to quickly get from both of you, who do you blame for the way this season has turned out? And if it's multiple individuals or, multiple fingers, that's perfectly fine. Just wanted to pick your brains on both of those on that really quickly.
Tori, you want to go first?
Yeah, I feel like I should get mine in and then
Go
let
ahead.
you.
Yeah.
5 minutes. I mean, I think you can go all the way back to the top and go and say front office. For ultimately, okay, small market team. Yes, they have money, but they're not Jerry Jones.
Yep.
So you have to understand that they will try to bargain hunt in certain areas. They will try to be fiscally responsible in certain ways. That's fine. The problem is the lack of balance. So that means, okay, you're going to get an elite quarterback and sign him and give him money. You're going to give his elite wide receiver some money. Pretty much everywhere else, you're looking for a deal on the roster. That means you should be paying for an elite staff as well. So if you're going to blame the coaches in that way, then you have to blame the front office.
Yeah.
Because it is the coach's fault that this team looks like this. Eric and I were talking about this, about the Chargers game. Chargers, talent-wise, are not that much different than the Bengals. Yes, certain positions, they have positions that are stronger than we do. But in general, like that level of talent evens out compared to.
I would even go as far as saying like we're a more talented football team. Like if you
they have the elite coaching staff.
Exactly.
And that's the difference.
And you think about what's more frustrating about this. So like they don't have. You can say like, oh, we're without a defensive player here too, or this guy or that guy. They didn't have Khalil Mack. They didn't have Cam Hart in the second half of the game. Their number one corner, and that team this year when they've played together on defense, they get. Now remember, they held us to 6 points in the first half.
Yep.
With no Khalil Mack. Whoever Puna Ford and whoever else they're going to put on the defensive line and Joey Bosa and a first-year linebacker and all these guys that they're putting out there, it's even more frustrating when you know this about the coach staff that it's their first year coaching in the NFL together. That staff has been together for years at Michigan, for about 3 years now in totality. But they've really only been together in the NFL and how it is in the league for about 9 months. And they look way more equipped to deal with their problems and understanding situational football than the Bengals do. And don't get me wrong, they're definitely better in the trench. Now, by the way, their interior offensive line is bad. It's bad. For all the people that are like, they're way better at the offensive line. Yes, they, of course. I'm not arguing if Rashawn Slater and the kid that they got from Notre Dame last year, Joe Alt, are better than Cody Ford, God help us, and Amarius Mims. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying like that's not a top 5 line in the league. That's not the best line you're gonna play yet. Yeah. Any
pressure.
Yeah. And the interior defensive line problem is insane to me because everyone knows it's a problem entering the game. Like Lou is fully aware. He gets a scouting report. I mean, he gets all the numbers after the game. The analytical department probably hands over some little stat sheet or whatever they have. They go over all this. You know that's not going to change week to week. You're fully aware that this is a red X on the team. That this guy's not. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to get the performance that BJ Hill put up against the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
What do I need to do as a coach to install pressure into my game plan? It's like, okay, well, you have to have dialed up blitzes. You've got to get a Mike Hilton in a 3rd and 7 and then have Jordan Battle rotate down and guard the slot, or disguise it where Jordan Battle has the slot at a distance and Mike Hilton's going to come screaming off the edge. Or you're going to double mug Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt over top of the center, stun out your defensive tackles, and then you're going to blitz one of them and send 5. Like stuff like that. And if whenever you're just sending 4 every time and you're like, eventually it'll work. Sure, I guess it will, but here's the thing: the game might be over by then, or you might be down 27-6.
Right.
So, for me, the person this falls on most throughout the whole season, it just comes down to it's Zach Taylor and his staff. I can get mad about draft picks. I can get mad about the front office and not re-signing Jamar before the season, which I do think would have helped the morale of the team. I do. I can get mad about the 2022 and the 2021 draft class being abysmal. Sure. You still have MVP quarterback. You have offensive player of the year in Jamar Chase.
Yep.
You still have a franchise left tackle for 7 weeks this season. Not the last 3 weeks, but you have a franchise left tackle 7 weeks this season. You have an average right tackle. You have a decent running back. And you have the number 1 guy leading the league in sacks. The rest is entirely dependent on if you can get the most out of below average to average players. And we have made all of them worse. We put them in completely – they're just never in optimal positions. They're actually in bad positions consistently. When you're putting guys on islands, when you're playing against – let's just name a player. Dexter Lawrence, best defensive player in football, in my opinion, this year. Should win Defensive Player of the Year if he was on a team worth a lick at all. And you're single teaming him with Cordell Volson.
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
What are we doing?
Asking Tanner Hudson I'm asking Mike Gesicki to block.
Yeah,
on
to
running plays.
Yeah. I don't like that. The personnel choices. Why are we obsessed with Tanner Hudson? I don't get it. Mike Gesicki has this great game against the Raiders, and then it's like, oh, but we don't need you anymore, buddy. What? Yeah, so that's, again, like that comes down to the staff.
And that's the thing, too, about the Mike Gesicki stuff. If Burton would have had a game against the Raiders or earned, because he didn't play the Raiders game, if he would have earned the Raiders game or went out there against the Ravens the next week and had, 80 yards and 3 catches, I would be more inclined to say, hey, play your young guy who's going to be the future of the team, who wants to be your wide receiver 3 or 2. But when you're telling us there's a playoff push and you're playing all these guys on defense because you need to get the most out of this season. We're not thinking about the future. Everything is all the chips are in for this year. And then on offense, you fly in the opposite direction of that, where you're like, we're going to play Jermaine Burton, who hasn't done anything yet. He does provide a spark. Like, I'm not saying on like certain downs.
Sure. No, I understand.
Yeah, it's like we need to send you on 9 routes, clear it out for Jamar, and if you're one-on-one, expect the football. Sure. But it's like we're not even going to give Mike Gesicki any burn. It's like, I don't know what your infatuation with number 87 is, but that guy's not a good NFL tight end.
He's not.
No.
He's not. He's proven it time and time again.
The fumble at the 1 yard line.
Like Zach has watched one too many feel-good sports movies, and he's like, my team. I love the Little Giants, but that's not something you should be modeling your NFL team after. Oh, we're a ragtag group. We've got chutzpah, so we'll win with our chutzpah. No.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on Trenton Irwin. That's a conversation. That's a conversation for another day.
The Trenton Irwin. You have no idea. So, do you follow Gridiron Grading?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so he put out that stat early in the year after the Chiefs game. Trenton Irwin is 172 out of 172 receivers to create separation.
No separation at all.
And it's
why do we keep giving him punt returns? Why?
Well, not only just that, but you're literally wasting a body on the field.
Mm-hmm.
That is a that is a wasted. And I legitimately mean this. Nothing. By the way, no ill will towards Trent Irwin. He
Seems
was
like a nice guy. Yeah, exactly.
Not only just that, but he was a solid player for 3 years for the team. Like whenever we needed him. But clearly, he's like, he's about to hit 30. He's lost a step, and he was already a really bad athlete. So it's like when you lose a step and you're a bad athlete, now you're an awful athlete by NFL.
You're just a regular human being.
Yeah, you're just a guy. So for him, it comes down to you are literally deciding to waste a player on the field rather than play Mike Gesicki in that spot. If Mike Gesicki's out wide and he runs a slant route because he's 6'6" and he's got this huge frame and he creates better separation than Trent Irwin, I'm like, that's not optimal. Do I want you to be out wide consistently? No. But if T's out and Jamar's in the slot, put him there.
Yeah, what's the harm in putting him out there?
Yeah, the other guy had the ball hit him in the face mask because Joe Burrow threw it too well in the end zone.
Too well.
Should have been a touchdown. Well, we've I know you said we're on a
you're
here, but appreciate you both joining and chopping it up with me about the Bengals. We'll have to do this again. When we have a little bit more time. Do you want to let the people know where they can find you on Twitter?
Yeah. So I'm on Twitter. I think it's just like @EA740 is just my Twitter @ and then just from there, I think my picture currently is a picture of Norm Macdonald as a news anchor on SNL, because the reason why it's that, by the way, is because this season is a joke. And Norm so that's the reason we decided to go with that, because I was pretty upset about how all this went. But real quick too, if we beat the Steelers, I'm back. So that's all.
Okay.
I mean, we could go on a 6-game run.
We went on a 10-game win streak before, so it's not.
Let's do it again.
I am
share that, please. Sorry.
Yeah, at Bengalogy, Bengal OGY. And I really only do Twitter. It's the same thing on Blue Sky if you're doing that. I don't really post there, but I started one because everybody was doing it and I have FOMO. So yeah. And we also have our little playback. So both
please plug that.
We both have a link to that in our Twitter bios.
It's in our bios, and we'll typically the last week or so we haven't done it, just where really it's just been kind of a schedule. We've depressed and kind of a schedule thing, but we'll definitely do one this Thursday. We'll do one this Thursday or something. We'll do one from we typically do it 45 minutes, maybe an hour, 7:30 to basically the first quarter of Thursday Night Football. We're like, oh, did you see that shitty play? And then we just kind of go on from there. Yeah.
Well, thank you both again for joining me. And like I said, we'll have to do this again when we have a little bit more time and do a more full evaluation of the season.
Appreciate let's do this. Let's do this. After the season, bring us back on. We'll do if it's over in January, we'll be like, all right, let's just let's bury this season. We'll
have a funeral for sure. Yeah. We appreciate everybody for tuning in to After the Catch. Please like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to leave any type of comment or feedback. We appreciate it all, and we will catch you next time. Thank you both once again.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Bye.